Stoick is he's there's such great words for Stoic. You know, he's burly, he's brawny, he's hairy, he's a mountain of a man. He's gregarious, he's boastful, he's commanding, you know, and he's, you know, his campaigns and conquests are the stuff of legend in the Viking world, you know, what he's done. And you feel that the second you see him, you know, here's somebody to be reckoned with, you know, here's a giant amongst giants. And he's also like a lost little kid, you know? I mean, he's got a son. He doesn't really know how to work his son. He knows how to do things when it's by the book, you know? We have our sports, we have our training, we have our customs. I protect my people. And anything that goes against that, he gets a little flummoxed and confused, you know? He can be very obstinate and stubborn. But he lives in this magical world where he loves his people. And he loves his son and wants so much for him. I've had such a great time getting my teeth into this guy, you know, and there's so much you can do with him, you know, and there's big fun scenes when you get to see the movie all put together. You know, the relationship between my son it's hilarious, it's touching, it's heartbreaking, you know, and it's really inspiring, and it's something that I think you can very much, audiences really connect with, because we've all been there, you know. We all had parents that we have issues with, you know, and affected in such powerful ways, and then many people have kids. So it brings up the you know, all of that, and it's been amazing to get into that. This kid came along and told us a whole different way of tolerance and compassion and understanding and unity, and now we have a whole, you know, so much of the stress and anxiety is dropped away, and we live in a much better world in Burke where we are, and it's because of him. So yeah, there's a newfound relationship, but it's still a father-son relationship, and I'm still putting pressure on him to take up the mantle. You know, I want him to run the tribe now, you know, and be the chieftain. And he doesn't know if he can do that. He still wants his adventures. I want him to grow up quicker than he should, you know, and stop those adventures and, you know, take on the responsibilities. You go to Burke now and it's just this, it's this insane madhouse of, you know, dragon training, dragon sports. They're everywhere, you know, and people living in this there's just a much more, how would you say, fun, free way of living there, you know, rather than the constant tension that was there before, where everybody is, you know, that fight or flight. They're ready. They're always braced. What's going to happen? It's just 2 seconds away. Major trouble. That's gone. Well, of course, until we get into the story. We think it's gone, but it lurks closer than we would have imagined. She's my favorite. I mean, she has that. She's self-assured and she's commanding. She knows who she is, and I see what a great stalwart she is for my son. You know, how much she grounds him. You know, she's the voice of reason to Hiccup, and she's a warrior as well. And I love the fact. I think she reminds me of my wife. You know, because my wife was super strong, super competitive, and uncompromising. And that's Astrid, you know, and I want to see my son grow up. I want to have grandkids, you know. I want it with like the coolest chick in the clan, and that's Astrid. We never really know in the first one what happened to my wife, but I talk about her with such affection, and you see how important she was in my life, how affected by her I was, and how sad I am that she's not a part of Hiccup's life. And I try and keep her memory alive in his soul, you know. And we see that in the first one. And in the second one, we come into a whole world that we just never thought was going to happen. It's something I resigned myself to life without a wife, without a mother for Hiccup, and suddenly she's there. Drago Bloodfist is a man whose reputation is well known across lands as mine, but for all the wrong reasons. You know, he's a dark, dark soul who even puts the fear of God into me. He killed many of my men and killed many Vikings all over the place, and great Vikings. You know, and coming from a place, he wanted support in fighting the dragons, but in a different way, in a much darker way than you know, in a way that was really darkness and chaos, and we didn't support him. And through that, he wanted everybody wiped out. And now he's back on the map. And actually, it's my blasted son that got him back on the map. Him and his adventuring, he's kind of like opened a Pandora's box in a way, you know, well, maybe more a can of worms. I thought the first one was already like the most magical animation. It really takes you into that world. The flying scenes, I've never seen any more fun or enthralling or exhilarating in an animated movie. This is even better. I mean, it's moved on, and it's a whole new system they have now, to the point that when we were going over the water and you're flying above the water, I'm thinking, this is the ocean. Did they actually film the ocean? And they didn't. It's animated. But it's so real. And yet you're living in this magical, enchanted world. So if you can do that with animation, you are taking an audience into that world like they've never had an opportunity before. Like they're really there. I love working with Dean. Dean is maybe the nicest, most humble director I've ever worked with. And he's such a smart guy, you know, but it's just being around him that you notice. He'd never be the one to tell you, you know, but what he does, how he approaches character and story is phenomenal, and the freedom that he gives you. That was what was unusual when Dean, in the first one, Dean and Chris, they came on board, and kind of everything started again, and suddenly I got a call saying, what do you think about all this? Tell us what, I hadn't been asked that before, and suddenly you felt way more involved in the movie and the story, and it's like, what could I really bring to Stoick? And then that's when it really took off for me, and it's been like that all the way through with Dean.